Lune's Day in Court. Lune vs Ontario, Halton Regional Police Service, Health Canada, Canadian Mental Health Association. Lune asked for all of the information. Everything is everything, and specifically the bill each time verbally and in writing. Lune didn't receive a single bill. Lune asked for a lawyer every time verbally and in writing. Lune got a lawyer one time of over a half dozen detainments. The rest of the times, no lawyer. Even though the forms that take Lune's consent say that he is entitled to a lawyer without delay. Why is the lawyer not at his door when the rude and fearful police arrive at his house to make a scene and bring crisis? I asked in writing and verbally for all the information regarding Lune. I didn't receive it either. Lune feels trauma after coming out of their care. Lune is $30,000 in debt and his credit is shot. These people combined received well over $100,000, locking Lune down for writing on the internet. I don't know the exact reasons for their believing that Lune is dangerous. They do not communicate their opinions openly. They do not give Lune his rights under the Freedom of Information Act nor his rights as a mentally ill person. I am looking for compensation for the hardship, suffering and discrimination against Lune. The money these people spent to lock Lune down and restrain him in ways that were not necessary. Lune never struggled with police, but he was adamant that they were trespassing, assaulting him, and delusional. Aside from that, Lune wanted to have no statement and no time. They have Lune afraid of being locked down. And for what? I told you. I am not sure, and neither is he. They don't come in and say, Lune, we are detaining you over these facts. No. They just call Lune dangerous and take his rights away from him. These people are entitled to be angry and rude on the job, and believe me, they are. If I get upset about their delusional team's opinion, Lune gets more hardship as my representation of him becomes more involved and costly. I am to remain emotionless while they detain Lune and throw his rights and their responsibilities out the window. As far as I am concerned, these people's activity in Lune's life since 2009 is criminal. The way they lock Lune down without explanation and without proof of danger is driving Lune crazy because he feels abused, and they parade around like they help him. Read the question period as well. Lune has this statement. I do need medication. I am not dangerous. There are only a few moments in my life that I have acted in a manner that could be considered dangerous. After 37 years of living, it's been a long time. It's easy to see that causing serious bodily harm is not likely because it has never happened. I've never been dangerous, and not because I cannot be, but because I always choose to not cause serious harm to anyone. What do I want? All the cash spent on the detainment and all the cash spent on the required lawyers. I hope I can split this racket with a lawyer. I was declared incompetent for 2 days and the doctor overturned that decision. These people scare me more than anyone in the world. I have not been convicted of a crime. My police record is over 10 years old and it's not relevant anymore. I could not save the money for this to be erased, and I wasn't even charged. I admit the drugs the doctor gives me do help me, and I was never non-compliant on those meds. I take medication for mental ailments, but I have been a victim of their delusions. I need medication and money. They truly believe I need them in what they do to me. I feel scared of them. Delusional authority. My license was taken from me. I don't know the exact reason why he took it, but 2 doctors collaborated to keep my license from me for 2 years. The doctor has said word for word that I am psychotic all the time. Is that even observable? I know what hallucinations are. I have only olfactory hallucinations, which are those of perception. This is where it gets unfair. To them, opposing their help and care is actually more illness. I am now a danger to myself too. Insisting that I'm not taking their care at all and thinking it's oppressive is again just further illness to them. This is not true. Hallucinations of perception are experienced by everyone. Mine are not more dangerous than your mother's, albeit they may be held for longer and stir more emotion before I see things the right way. In 2006 I was discharged on serious crimes and did 3 years of probation without any issue. Probation ended in 2009 and my record could have been cleared for almost 4 years now. The incident in 2006 was cluttered with mischief and false testimony and press releases. It's still at the top of a Google search for my name, or my name in my home city. This takes some work to get it up there. Obviously some people do believe I am very dangerous and want these lying articles to represent who I am. It has been quite a painful experience facing the consequences of that night. I still haven't lived it down now after 11 years. The paper trail makes me look like a monster to some people. I swear I'm not dangerous. What I feel is small, in fear, and gagged. Yes, I do hear the voices. I do hear voices, doctor. But not when nobody is with me. Especially when they are loud and clear, or when they're in the silence that someone is holding dear. Say you are coming, I need a smoke, a coffee, and a bite to eat. I have the right to make purchases, so are you coming to the market with me? I think you need to let us alive a bit while forcing us into your seat. See what you see. Doctor, yes, I hear voices and your peoples are heavy on my heart. Many times, they were in my ears. I have been in your detainment times. When you hear your voice in my ear, tell me, are you all there? I have a few legal questions. Please come closer, it's a dare. I have a few legal questions that I will make clear each time. I want all the information about me and the cost to Canadians to make me stay here. You act like I am a few bricks short of load, a few sandwiches short of a picnic. No, it wasn't Satan, it wasn't me. I'm not Jesus, powerful, or prophetic. I'm just a poet and wrote other people's work, their ideas, I know it. How many times did I ask you for what is my right? 50 cents for a phone call, but for the loonies forget it. All I wanted was my toonie, for coffee, some air, and a cigarette, and for 2 days I begged. A great big courtyard for the patients with plenty of room for a few smokers, but the government's caring for people by taking our freedoms, they're jokers. I think about suing because they coerced me into playing their company. They say it's care. They watched me break down for an hour once in cuffs. All they did was look on. I needed medication after that for sure. You got me all worked up and said I was dangerous, and your team is the cure. Drugs? Like I said, I take them. I like how quetiapine slows me down when I'm thinking too fast for the time. I like how lorazepam can take this anxiety of mine. Please, a touch of Haldol, but I don't want that much. Looks like the doctor can't sleep either. He should take what he gives me. I don't mix hard drugs with his meds. Alcohol and weed are the vices I choose. I don't let any of them ruin my life. I'm not an addict, and powerless. I choose. Neither are problem substances for me. The doctor has agreed. But when my eye is cocked, or I feel like people are bugging, they'll forever call me dangerous, but I'm forever drugging. I don't hurt people, it's just some of my music that is thugging. I have never aggressed or been violent with your team. I surely wasn't ready for their war against me. I have only defended myself, and yes, I got angry. Anger is my right. I can even make you scared. Neither of those things make it likely for me to be dangerous. Anger and fear are two human emotions. They are not to be governed by laws. I do not start fights, I also don't finish them really either. I hold people down, and stop when they stop. I am off now, doctor. I should have slept through those nightmares. Knock me out till I get to smoke. Partially it's a joke. You don't take care now, I don't care for your care. Your ego insists you are not captured by delusion. You are never, ever wrong in what you put them through. You do say sorry. But it's not enough. For your opinion is the nurse, your trusty minion. I say 10,000 words and she writes 1,000,000. You're all gossiping with your professional opinions. I'll take the simple version on why and how I'm always found dangerous. Go on, give your rodent-like opinion. I want the loot in my bank at the Toronto Dominion. I have the right to sue. As a mentally ill patient, bring me the required paperwork to file or let me go get as soon as it is possible. Not when allowed, but possible. I know my rights. It's $250 per night. If anyone writes about me, it's the same as me asking for the record. If they write it, or record it, I want it. Good night, doctor. Lune, you said you encountered others that were abused or that felt fellow patients were being abused. Can you bring up some of them before? Yes. I would also like to bring forth testimony from other people that have stayed in the same or similar places for treatment for their mental health. Deborah had this to say. Quote, I have only been in the intensive care unit for 1 day. There is an 80-year-old man who initially came and tied down to a stretcher and knocked out around the same time as I am in. They are claiming he's dangerous too. The next day when he woke up I heard him talking about them drugging him without first himself aggressing. Just like they did to me. He admitted to me he had some outbursts and arguments with his wife and he was quite upset with how they ignored and neglected him in the observation room. What if you were locked down? What would happen? This is their logic, I suppose. I don't know if he's suffering from psychosis or not, but I know I want him to be treated at home or away from the rest of these people. I still can't believe they drugged him out and tied him down. 80 years old, those bloody imbeciles. First day in the loony bin, free Jacob. Unquote. Trevor had this to say. Quote, I met a guy who swears he was detained over raps, poetry and his opinions on war. They think he's dangerous while our government is creating this mood, this mindset, this opinion that is against them because of how they fight war over the last 3 decades. I can't believe who they throw in here and for how little. I'm not sure what he said, but I'd be willing to bet it was bold, and entertaining the hardship of war and freedom of speech. How do you deal with those who oppose your nation's army and live amongst you? I would guess the loony bin is their place according to the policy governing this nation and province. I'd like to hear his raps, poetry, and feelings on war and how it is waged. It's a breath of fresh air to find someone that wants to have peace and thinks invasion is invasion and Canada is guilty. He suggested that leaders should receive life in prison or death. I'd like to see war end. That's why I'm vocal about it. I stand up for what's right and fair. I met 2 patients that were fighting cancer in the loony bin. One of them had visible tumors while the other was suffering from the results of radiation and had lost her hair. I can't believe they throw these 2 women in with some of these guys. These women need better treatment. Come on, Ontario, Canadian Mental Health Association, make a better place for the mentally ill with cancer. Unquote. Rand had this to say. Quote, I just admitted myself to hospital because I was afraid my concurrent disorder was acting up. I am a heroin addict and I also suffer from mental illness. I felt bad today, and pretty much every time I see this happening here, and it happens all the time. I didn't miss a dose of my methadone through my admittance. I arranged for it to be that way. But I see others that are quite stirred up due to lack of freedom to smoke cigarettes. I know I need their help right now, but it's scary to see that many of them don't need, or at least don't want, the kind of care, help these people provide an involuntary patient. The relationship between patient and nurse and patient and doctor has obviously become toxic for many of them. I must say I more often side with the patient. These people aren't dangerous. They're angry or sad. You see, these smokers lost their rights to smoke. Technically I didn't lose my rights for a fix. Unquote. Reese had this to say. Quote, I argue with my mom a lot. She's threatened to send me to the hospital a bunch of times. She uses it as leverage to end an argument. This isn't the first time I've been hauled off to the hospital. I swear it was just words, and anger. There was no threat or danger to anyone. They don't really know about how my mom threatens to call the CMHA on me and get the Coast team to once again assemble outside of my house. I know it costs $6,000 a month for me to stay at the hospital. I could really use that money to put first and last month's rent down on my own place. I don't ever need to be in the hospital. I'm not shitting you, it's over $250 per night per bed at the hospital. Hopefully they can just send me to the shelter next time. But with each time admitted, the hospital money changers sink their talons into Canadian taxes collected. Send me to the shelter. Not the hospital. Unquote. Leslie had this to say. Quote, I see all these mentally ill people scrounging around the property of the hospital for money, and a friend. They're borrowing smokes and money and begging. I hate to see so many of them go without. But there is this one guy who says he just travels around from hospital to hospital admitting himself for treatment of his mental disorder. He's a hustler, He'll take what he can get. He'll steal from just about anyone, I bet. He's snaky. From what I have heard, it's significantly more than $200 per night to stay in a mental health ward at a hospital. My blood boils sometimes when I think about how he uses the hospital as a Hilton on the taxpayer. I understand he has a regimen while in here, and his freedom is restricted, and they might aid him mentally. But for him to come out and tell me how he's hustling taxpayers just makes me so mad. Next time he asks me for something, I'm saying no and calling him a leech." Unquote. Shadden was not a patient but had this to say. Quote, "They are taking people's rights as mentally ill people. I have a mental illness but I never asked for the help of a shrink. I'll take drugs to make me feel more comfortable, but I'm old school on this. I don't want mental assessments or care. I do want to let the people at the hospitals know that they have rights as mentally ill persons. Here are their rights. Number 1, you have the right to be treated with dignity and respect. Number 2, you have the right to communicate with people outside of the hospital. Number 3, you have the right to keep personal effects on you. Number 4, you have the right to religious freedom. Number 5, you have the right to be employed and to work. Number 6, you have the right to manage and execute wills. Number 7, you have the right to enter into contractual agreements. Number 8, you have the right to make purchases. Number 9, you have the right to education. Number 10, you have the right to written request for release from the hospital. Number 11, you have the right to an independent psychiatric examination. Number 12, you have the right to maintain civil service status, including the right to vote. Number 13, you have the right to licenses, privileges or permits. Number 14, you have the right to sue or be sued. Number 15, you have the right to marry or divorce. Number 16, you have the right to treatment in the least restrictive setting. Number 17, you have the right to not be subject to unnecessary restraints. Number 18, you have the right to privacy and confidentiality. Number 19, you have the right to informed consent. Number 20, you have the right to refuse treatment. Number 21, you have the right to refuse participation in experimental treatments and research. You can demand any of these rights right away." Unquote.